distance. So on this one, you'll notice it's x, and this one is 18. These are the same distance apart, so I'm going to put x is equal to 18. You'll notice this is a radius, and this is a radius, so x would have to equal the 12. I need to find the diameter, which is equal to 2 radiuses. So I need a radius. If I know the radius is 5.5 and 6.9 together, because that's this piece and that piece, I'm going to add it up. I get 12.4 for the radius. But because x is the full distance across, it's 2 radiuses. So x would equal 24.8 because I have to have 2 of the 12.4s. I have a radius. There's a radius right here. It's 4.2 and 6.9, so if I add those together, I get that x is 11.1, because that's the radius. If it had been the full distance across, I would have doubled it. Alright, I have 4. I know the radius is 10.5, and then I have x. This shape that it makes, you'll notice it makes a right triangle, so I'm going to use a squared plus b squared equals c squared. C always has to be the longest side, so the hypotenuse. I'm just going to say it's a 6. Then I'd have x squared plus 4 squared. I'm going to minus the 4 squared. Just cancel out and give me x squared equals. Then when you calculate it, just to make it faster, do 10.6 squared minus 4 squared, and you'll have the squared button on your calculator. Mine is somewhere else on this one, which gives you 96.36. To get rid of the power, you square root it. Square root 96.36 is 9.8. So on this one, once again, I have the radius, I have this length, and I have 7.6. The x is over here. I'm going to move this x to this length because I know that this length and this one are the same measurement. It makes a triangle, so I can use a squared plus b squared equals c squared, which would be 7.5 squared plus x squared equals the hypotenuse squared minus the 7.5 squared. And then I'm just going to type it in so that I don't have to type too much. So 17.3 squared minus 7.5 squared is 243.04. I square root it, 243.04. X is equal to 15 point, and I round it to 6. I know this is a 9, because I have to match. I don't know this, and this would have to be the radius, so I take half of 20.8 and get 10.4. A squared plus b squared equals c squared. I know that I have 9 squared plus something squared equals 10.4 squared. 10.4 squared minus 9 squared is 27.16. I square root the 27.16. And get that that missing piece was 5.2. So I know that this is 5.2 on that missing side. Now the reason I did that is because I need to find x, and x doesn't match any other pieces on here. So I would have to do the radius is x plus 5.2 equals, I need to find another radius. So where's another radius? Here's another radius. I know it has to be 10.4 minus the 5.2. And this does not always happen. They do not always match. So let's do another one that's like this, where it's a two-stepper. So I know this length. I know the radius. See the radius right here? I'm just going to draw my own radius in. 11.2, and I don't know that side. So I have 10.4 squared plus something squared equals 11.2 squared minus the 10.4. $11.2 squared minus 10.4 squared is 17.28. Square root 17.28. And that missing piece is a 4.2. I'm going to round it. But now I need to find that x piece. This piece right here. So if I know the whole radius is x plus 4.2, and I know that this radius is 11.2, I can minus and find that it is 7 for that missing x right here. So see, it's not always going to match because this one was longer than that one, that piece of the triangle. When you want to ask you to determine if it is tangent to the circle, we're going to see if it makes a right triangle. So we know that right triangles, we're allowed to use Pythagorean theorem for right triangles. So we're going to use it to check. So I know the hypotenuse is the longest side. Then I plug in my other two sides. I'm going to check. So 5.3 squared plus 11.2 squared is 153.53. 13 squared is going to be the 169. They are not the same, so this means they are not tangent. Because 153.53 is not equal to 169. When I check this one, I know the hypotenuse is 10, so that's the longest side. Then I have a 6 squared and a 6 squared, 36 and 30, 72. So they're not equal, which means it is not tangent. Let's say you did go through and you plugged it in and you got like 100 equals 100. That would mean that it was tangent because the formula works, and it only works for right triangles. So that would mean it was tangent. Okay, find the segment length indicated. Assume that it is tangent. So we're assuming that this is a right triangle. So I would do 6.6 squared plus, that 4.4 is in the center, which means this length would also be 4.4 for the radius, so that full length would be 8.8 equals the hypotenuse squared. 6.6 squared plus 8.8 squared equals 121. Square root it, and x is equal to 11. I have this length, and then I'm missing the hypotenuse, so I'm going to do 6 squared plus 8 squared equals something squared. 6 squared plus 8 squared is 100. Square root it. That means this full length is a 10, but it just wants this little piece right here. So this one, if I know the radius is 6, this radius will be 6. If the full length is 10, this piece would have to be what? Have to be a 4. Because 6 and 4 together would give you the full length of 10. When you're given two tangents, this length and this length are the same distance. And in math, to say that something's the same, we say that they are equal. Oops, that's a 5x minus 4 equals 4x plus 6 minus the smallest x from both sides. Add the 4, and x is equal to 10. Same thing here. I know this length and this length are the same, so I'm going to say x plus 1 is equal to 2x minus 11 minus the x, add the 11, and 12 is equal to x. That's 1. 12 is equal to x. Then it wants us to do perimeter. These ones are kind of fun because all of the ones that have the corners with tangents, if it's 7.5, this would be 7.5. If this is 5.4 right there, this would be 5.4. Now I have to find this corner here in order to have this length. If the full thing is 14.4, I have to minus the small piece from it, which means this is a 9 and this would be a 9. I'm going to scribble it out because I used the 14. To find the perimeter, we add all of the sides together. So I would have 5.4 plus 5.4 plus 7.5 plus 7.5 plus 9, and I add them all up, and that'll be my perimeter. So I'm going to shortcut. I'm going to do 5.4 plus 7.5 plus 9, then I'm going to times it by 2 because I had 2 of each. So 43.8 is my perimeter. I have 7.1, the corners, those tangents are going to match. Then I know this is 7.8, so this would have to be 7.8 because they're tangents together. I have to fill in this piece, so I'm going to do the 16.8 big minus the small. That is 0, it's 9. So we get 9 again for these two sides. So I would add up